Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. My name is Rachel from Rachthestamper.com, and I'm going to show you how to make this really cute box that I created for the Stampin' Friends blog hop. If you've never hopped along before, we do create a project, which is a 3D project and a card every month, and you can find us on the third Thursday of the month. Date is always revolving, but you can find us here at Rachthestamper.com, and we will share some inspiration for you. This month's theme is Mother's Day. So I thought to bring out a really cute bundle, what I would share with you is the really wonderful, and I believe it's correct, Animal Expedition Designer Series paper. And I'm also going to use the coordinating stamp set for the card as well. I am showing you the project video today, so I'm not 100% finished with it, but I wanted to film it while I had it fresh. I did do a couple things to change, and I wanted to share one tip with you just in case. I just thought of this, so I'm not sure if you all have never thought of this as well either, but one thing with our DSP, it kind of is directional. So we do have dies that coordinate with a lot of the animals in this stamp set. There's also a giraffe, and there is the frog on the branch as well. But if you notice, when you want to cut these out, you can only cut out the animals that are facing a certain direction. So you can do this rhino when he's facing to the left, or you can do the kangaroo when he is facing to the right, which would be up here. Obviously, this paper ended, so his head is cut off. However, if you've ever wanted to cut out the other side, I just kind of thought of a quick tip, and the reason being, I don't know if it's just my medical background that inspired me to do it, but I'm going to show you, and I'm going to just trim one of these out so I can kind of make it a little bit smaller. You will need some either post-it notes, repositionable tape, washi tape, any of the above things would work. But I'm going to show you with this kangaroo because he is facing the opposite direction. So if you have him up here. So what you could do is you're going to have to hold this up to a light to be able to do it. So I'm not going to be able to show you that part. But basically what you would do is you would hold your image up to a light. So I have this up to a light. And make sure it's pretty centered. So what you're going to do is you would actually cut this out backwards. So if you cut this out backwards, it is going to perfectly cut out your kangaroo. So I will add this as a picture when I do my blog post, so you'll be able to see that as well. But just a tip for you, again, you do have to hold this up to a very bright light so you can see the shadow through there, just to make sure that you line it up perfectly. And if I was able to show you that, it does line up perfectly. So I'm going to show you today how to create this really simple box, and I also decorated it with some of this designer series paper. Now I originally started, so I do have a template for this, but I originally started and I decided that I wanted the box to be 100% square underneath. However, I cut the wrong piece when I put it there. So I'm also going to give you a tip on exactly how to not make the same mistake I have. So this paper is cut to 8.5 by 6.5, and this is a pretty simple box. I'm sure lots of people have done this box before. Some people call it a 2, 4, 6, 8 box because it's very simple scoring. So when you go along, you're going to start on the 8.5 inch side, and what we're going to do is we're going to score it 2, 4, 6, and 8. Just that simple, okay? Then we're going to rotate our paper, and we're going to do the same thing again, except we're just going to do, so we're going to score at 2, and then we're going to do at 4, and then we're going to do at 6. Okay, so you have this piece of paper here. This is what it's going to look like. Now, one other thing I wanted to make sure I clarify with you is when you fold something, so when you put your indent in, you want to fold with the score line. So, for example, you're going to take this paper and you're going to fold in. For this one, I actually did it the backwards way. I did it opposite, which also leads to these large bevels. So you're going to notice that my paper is opposite. We are going to actually cut it this way, even though this one does not match up. So I just wanted to let you know that ahead of time. This is going to look backwards than what the actual template is that we come up with. And I am using Lemon Lime Twist for this because this is one of the retiring colors. It will be going away as of this year. So it will be on the retirement list, and it's probably going to sell out. So if you want to get a refill for your stamp pad, as long as you have a refill for it, you can always use it. But if you want to get a refill for your stamp pad, if you want to make sure that you get the 5-pack of in-color markers or any of the paper that coordinates with it, you should get it now. One other tip that I have, what I typically do is I tend to fold on the score lines and then cut. But this time, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do something a little different. I'm actually going to cut first because I think sometimes you can get on the lines a little bit nicer when you don't have the bends in the paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out this little piece here. So you can see, it is a little bit more difficult to see, but there's a long line here. We're going to cut out everything except for this flap here. So we're going to trim this, going to cut this all the way down. And I'm going to do the same here, so we're going to remove that. Okay, and then you can go ahead and give these a little miter cut if you'd like. I think sometimes it makes the putting the project together a little bit easier. We're going to trim up to the score line on all 4 of these from the bottom and from the top. I'll do the bottom first. So I'm just going to cut right down the middle of the score line. Just like so. Okay, and then same thing on the other side. And if you need to bend them a little bit just to see where your bends are, you just don't want to fold it yet. So I'm going to cut straight up. I say cut straight, but then on that one I did cut a little crooked. Okay, and then if we go back to our diagram here, so we have our little edge here, we're going to leave this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little miter cut on these. These will be the flaps. You could also use your detailed trio punch if you wanted to round them instead, just up to you. We're going to completely remove the 3rd flap. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that one off. Okay, just like so. And then this one, we're going to just trim this one down a little bit. So I'm going to grab my bigger scissors because sometimes I end up cutting crooked when I use the little one. So I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to cut this off. And that's still a little crooked. That's okay though. I'm going to give this just a little miter cut. And same for this one. And these are just going to be the top flaps. So it's not going to really make too much of a difference. Okay, so now I am going to go through and I'm going to just fold these. So again, I'm going to fold them in, just reinforcing the score lines. And then I'm going to do the same for this. Just make sure this is nice and sharp. That way it folds really nicely. Same on the bottom. Now, one other tip I did want to share with you because I goofed this one up when I did it. And really, it just kind of matters what the bottom of your box looks like, okay? So when you have, this is how the box opens. So when you have your flap, you tend to want the front flap to be square, okay? So what I did was I kind of cut the wrong one. So it is helpful if you want, you can put this together to see which is your front flap, which will be this one here. So what I'll do is just take a little pencil mark here, and I'm going to just put a mark there. That way I know that this one I want to be fully square, okay? But these I'm going to go ahead and just give just a little bit of just a trim so they go together a little bit. Again, you also don't have to necessarily make these to be 2-inch squares. So if you have a smaller piece, it's fine. It's just the way that the back side is going to look will look just a little bit, instead of being square, it'll just be layered on, which is perfectly fine. But sometimes I feel like I'm just like to be a little bit more precise with the bottom of the box looking square. So if you do have a smaller piece of paper, that's not really going to affect it. So this one, for example, if I were to just put this together, just to explain what I mean, you will close this. This is going to end up being the top here. So we'll put that in so you can see. And this one was cut just a little bit smaller. So you would cut so you're just going to be able to see what your flaps look like on the bottom. So no big deal. But that's why I end up changing it to a little bit bigger. So now, you scoot this over. So now you have your box. This is completed. This is going to be your front flap. So what we would do is we're going to fold this in. We're just going to do a test run, make sure everything looks nicely. We'll fold in the flap, just like that. And then I tend to put in usually the back, side, and then the front. So as you can see, when you finish this, it's going to be a perfect square on the bottom. Okay, so there's what that looks like closed. So the other thing is I decided to decorate this. So I have some pieces of DSP. Again, this is from the Animal Expedition. And for this one, you can see I used the chevron package or pattern for the sides. And then on the inside of the lid, I just put this because I thought it was cute. And I also put one on the bottom. You don't have to do either of those. I haven't finished decorating the top yet, which is why I didn't finish that. So there could be an extra piece of DSP here. I just haven't 100% decided. But one thing I will tell you is you will find that it is easier to adhere these if you do it while it's flat. So I'm going to go ahead and just do this just with some snail. One thing is just to remember, if you do have a pattern, like for example with the chevron, when you put it on, you do want to make sure they all go on in the same direction. So you want to be aware, these are all going up and down. If I would put one on sideways, it would be glaringly noticeable. So with these birds, it doesn't really matter quite as much. So I'm going to just place the birds on. And these were cut from a lengthwise strip, so they aren't really going to exactly match. If you wanted to, you could cut them from a widthwise strip. That way they'd be going across and it would be all one contiguous scene. So that's another idea. While I have this open, I'm going to go ahead and put some tear and tape here on the flap. You do want to make sure that you use a really sturdy adhesive for the end piece here. That way it will actually hold your box together. So once again, we're going to put this together. This is going to be our front flap, so we're going to put some adhesive here. I'm going to put just 2 pieces on this one as well. So, and actually going to put these on this side. That way they will stick to each other. Oop, that's a little small. That's okay. Since it's just a, oop, lost that piece. Since it's just a sample, it's not that big of a deal. But I am going to make sure that I put a nice couple pieces onto the front part just to hold it in. And then one other thing, if you decide that you wanted to do your flaps, I'm going to go ahead and put one of these on now. Have one on the side. That'll be for the bottom. And again, these are totally optional. And I just ran out of snail. Almost always happens every time I'm making a video. Run out of tape. Never fails. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I just want to make sure I have this correct. So it's going up. And I'm going to put these little dudes here. And I meant to use the other side. And I totally forgot. So this one's going to have a little frog looking up at us from the bottom. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull off the release paper. I'm going to do the side panel first. And then I'm just going to fold this in half. Put that over. Make sure I give it a really good press so it stays. Okay. So there you go. It's going to be what it looks like on the top there. Okay. So let me just pull the rest of this off. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the release paper from the tear and tape. And on the back. I think this is the first video I've ever done for this blog hop, as a matter of fact. I do a lot of videos, but I thought this might be helpful for you guys to be able to see a video as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the back flap in. Then I'm going to put the sides. So 1 and 2. And I don't tend to push these really firmly until I make sure that it's lined up kind of the way I want. And then I'll just give this a really nice press. I'm going to take this little piece here. Just put that into the bottom. Just like so. And that's it. There you go. And then you can just close the lid. And again, I will finish dressing the box top. But you could use the chevron, you could use the birds. There's lots of really great images. And then I will share, this is going to be kind of the sneak peek of what my card is going to look like. I haven't finished it yet, but the way I achieved this was I cut out from my piece of scrap paper from something that I tried to work on but looked awful. I cut an oval, and then I'm just using this as a mask. So I have the same size piece of paper underneath of it. This is 4 by 5 1/4. And then what I did was I took a sponge with some ink and just went over top of it. You could use this over and over again. So that is what the card is going to look like, but I just haven't finished the card yet. So thank you guys so much for stopping by to watch. Make sure you go all the way through the hop so you can get some great ideas for some Mother's Day cards. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, if you click the subscribe button here on YouTube, which is by the bell, it will let you know when I put a new video out. So just a quick tip in case you didn't know that. Thanks guys for watching. I hope you have an awesome day.